Okay, it is 1:30. We'll go ahead and call the Oklahoma County Planning Commission, room 204, 1:30, January 18th, 2024 to order. Notice of this meeting was posted on January 12th, 2024. Call to order, Eric.
Yes, the members of the Planning Commission today are Mr. Rob Murray,
Here.
Ms. Denise Patterson, Mr. Rob Talbot,
Here.
Mr. Greg Davidson,
Here.
Ms. Jennifer Craig, and that's all.
We have a quorum. Let's move forward. Item number 4, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody got a copy of the minutes? Is there any changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson, Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Ms. Craig.
Okay, minutes approved. Item number 5, this item was deferred by the Planning Commission at the request of the applicant at this December 21st meeting. Discussion and possible action to approve/deny zoning change from R2 rural residential to I industrial Z 2023-08. Eric, want to update us?
Yes, so I sent the applicant, Mr. Skelly, a copy of the DA's opinion. There was a question by the Planning Commission in the previous meeting about his options as far as taking certain uses out of the industrial zoning category. The opinion that I sent everybody on the Planning Commission, Mr. Skelly goes over that essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, basically he has other avenues that he can choose from. If he wanted to come back and do a planned unit development, he can. If he wanted to do some form of commercial zoning with a special use permit for outdoor storage, he could. So essentially, what we're stating there in that is he has other remedies to move forward if the Planning Commission so chooses to deny this particular application.
So as it stands today, we're moving forward as is.
Yes, I talked to Mr. Skelly. I do not see him here in the meeting, but I did talk to him over the phone. I let him know if he had any questions, he can contact me. At the end of the conversation, he stated he was going to review the paperwork that I sent him and go from there. So that's the last thing I heard.
Would you mind reviewing, and for some people who weren't here, what it actually was?
Sure. So his request is off of Southeast 29th and Harrow Road. It's the property there that's been highlighted with the red square. What he's wanting to do on that particular piece of property, which consists of approximately 3.1 acres, is he's wanting to rezone that to industrial. The main purpose is for an outdoor storage. Apparently he has a business now where he excavates rocks, and so he's going to use this as kind of a storage area, but also an area to where he could sell some of these stones, whatnot, decorative stones, to the general public. And so that was his intent with a particular piece of property.
Anybody have any questions for Eric?
Right, it's currently R2. He wants to rezone it to I, which is industrial. If you go to the next slide, you can kind of see the zoning that's out there adjacent to this property. We have some industrial property to the west. We have some residential that's directly behind this particular piece of property to the east. Just to kind of refresh your memory, there was a notice of protest from the neighbor that's directly behind this particular piece of property. So with that protest, whatever is decided here, that protest makes a significant protest. So when the Board of County Commissioners reviews this item, they'll have to vote unanimously. As you go back west towards the intersection of Henny and Southeast 29th, there's a commercial. There's also a PUD. Some of it's residential. Some of it is also commercial as well. That kind of gives you an idea of the property, at least that's in our jurisdiction, how it's currently zoned today.
And just to review, the concern that was brought up last time is if we do approve this, that industrial zoning will stay with that property in perpetuity. So even though he's just looking to do outside storage for rocks, anybody could put in anything later under the industrial category if this is approved.
Correct. And the conversation that got into the DA's opinion had to do with, can we move forward by removing particular uses from the zoning category? And so that's where we got into the question that I explained the outcome earlier.
Okay. Any other questions for Eric? Is there anybody here who would like to talk in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, is there anybody here who would like to talk against this project? Hearing and seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve / deny item number 5.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson, Mr. Talbot,
I'm sorry,
I was gonna, yeah,
yes,
you're voting aye to say no.
we're denying yes.
okay, yes.
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 Item number 5 is denied. Item number 6 is discussion and possible action to approve / deny the final plat of the Reserve Phase 1 FP 2023-05. Eric?
This is a subdivision that has been in front of you guys a couple of times. Obviously, with the general plat, there was no zoning in this particular case. It's currently zoned R2. All the lots that are out there are 2 acres or greater. The preliminary plat was applied for back in November of 2022. They just finished the subdivision towards the end of November, beginning of December of 2023. The county was out there several times as part of our new requirements and the new regulations is testing and oversight. And so the District 3 road superintendent, myself, the county engineer were out there several times throughout the project. Everything looks good as far as the pavement. That was always our main concern. I will say in this instance, it's a private road subdivision, but we want to make sure everybody has the same starting point as a public road, as the people that live in there will have to maintain that and other items as you move forward. So everything is in good order. I did receive one letter of protest, and I'll have the applicant speak to that. Let me hand that out to you guys, as it was something that came in towards the end of yesterday. Just give you a chance to look at it, and then I'll have the applicant speak to where they currently are with this.
Okay, can I get a motion to receive the protest letter?
Motion to receive the protest letter.
Roll call.
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson, Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Ms. Craig.
Yes.
And this is the same copy for everybody. Anybody have any questions for Eric? Hearing none, is there anyone here who'd like to talk in favor of this project? You could state your name and address, please.
Dean Colitas, Civil and Environmental Consultants, 4700 Galardia Parkway, Oklahoma City, representing the applicant. We are the civil engineers on the project. So there's two oil facilities on the project within the property. And what we've done is they've had existing lines through there. So we've helped establish and can redefine the easements they need for their facilities to be the maintain and own and operate their facilities. Those easements have been established and agreed to. We did receive an easement agreement, right-of-way agreement from Formentera, who is the operator of the oil site. And we were good with the terms, and we kind of worked that out this morning. So really the next step is just to sign the agreement and file it, and then we'll write the book and page on the plat. You can see on the plat where we have it labeled, where there's a book and page, we'll just write that in, and then, before we file the actual final plat. So we've kind of worked it out, and he can speak to more of this the guy that filed the protest, Stephen. But we have been working together and got a resolution on everything. So it's kind of been a long time. The asset changed hands several times during this process, so they're now the currently owners of the facilities and their assets there. So that's kind of what the delay came. But we've got it all worked out. So
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Anybody else who'd like to talk in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, is there anybody here who would like to talk against this project? Is the gentleman here who filed the protest? Would you mind coming up and giving us your name and address, please?
Stephen Unger, Formentera Operating, 106709 Northwest Second, Yukon, Oklahoma.
Hearing what the gentleman said, are you in agreement that you guys have come to a resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Eric, from a county perspective, we're okay with what we just heard?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Eric?
So as long as they file book and page like he referenced, then
Right, like he stated on the plat there's a place that's been left blank for the book and page number before they file it. So essentially, once they get that document in place, all they have to do is let us know. We'll write that on there before it goes to the Board of County Commissioners, or even if it takes place afterwards, just before they file it. We'll be sure that it gets on there, be able to reference it.
Procedurally, this is all above board. And what are we actually calling that? That a change or adjustment?
So basically what he's talking about is the easements that go to these oil wells that they're on the property. It's the easement in itself. So from my understanding, the discussion with Mr. Kalita yesterday, they're just coming down to an agreement on what that easement is. The easement that you have there on the paperwork, it's not changing.
Mhm.
It's still the same size. It's still in the same place. It sounds like it's more items beyond just what's in the contract that they agreed to itself that they were discussing before the protest was sent in. So
And so when we make a motion to approve this, if that's the case, we don't have to alter this by saying we approve with the understanding this will change, just approve it as is.
yeah, I mean, it's something that we'll just have to keep track of on our side before they file.
You're good with that? Okay. All right, with that said, I'll entertain a motion to approve/deny item number 6, the possible, or just item number 6.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 6, the final plat of the reserve, phase 1.
Roll call?
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
and Ms. Craig.
Yes.
Motion approved. Okay, item number 7 and item number 8, are they tied together?
They are. It would probably be easier just to kind of approach the zoning first,
Okay.
have that discussion, and then get into the other discussion.
Sure. Okay, item number 7, discussion and possible action to approve/deny a zoning change request from R2 Rural Residential District to R1 Acreage Residential District Z 2023-10. Eric?
Yes, so this is the third iteration of Orchard Hills. And so it's, the first time it came in front of the planning commission was back in April of 2022. At that point in time, it was the current zoning that you see before you, what they're asking for today, which is R1. They wanted 1 acre lots to develop 80 lots at that particular time. Then that application was withdrawn. They came back in July, June, July timeframe of 2023 with the PUD. At that particular time, there were substantially more lots, if I recall correctly. It was in the neighborhood of 150 lots. At that time, they also were going to have access to Deer Creek water and I would assume Oklahoma City sewer, if I recall correctly. Today, it's a different application. It really goes back to the one that was initially submitted back in April. They're asking for R1, which is 1 acre lots or greater. This time, they're asking for 75 lots. But as you can see, this is just kind of the area itself. It's off of MacArthur and Sorghum Mill Road, 234th, 150 acres. If you go to the next slide there, you can kind of get an idea of the zoning there in the area. You have Cedar Ridge Farms, which is R1, which is to the south of it. You have a couple other subdivisions that are to the south and to the west of this. Those subdivisions are older, but again, they're the same type of zoning that they're requesting today. And as you can see, the majority of everything else that is out there is R2 at this time. The PUD that's kind of in the southwest part of the, or southeast part of the picture there is Villaggio. They have access to Oklahoma City and sewer, so it's a little bit denser. But beyond that, I think it's kind of similar to what is out there. Now, I sent you guys the protests that I had at the time when I sent out the application, staff reports, and the other materials. Since that time, we've gotten quite a few more protests, so I'd like to take this time to hand those out so everybody can take a look at those.
Sure, can I get a motion to accept the additional protest?
Motion to receive the additional protest?
Roll call?
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson, Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Ms. Gregg.
Yes.
Eric, while we're reviewing some of these protest letters, the obvious question is if they're putting 75 houses on 151 acres, why are we requesting R1 when it would almost fit R2?
Well, we'll get into that, but it's basically the way the property is, the topography of the property. If you go back to the first slide, it's kind of hard to see with all the green on there, but there's a considerable pond that sits in the middle of that property. So as you go from southwest to northeast, that main pond is there, but then it kind of trickles to the smaller pond in the northeast. And then when you get to the corner, you start getting into the floodplain and floodway. So it's these variables that kind of shrink down the subdivision itself. Now, like I said, in one of the previous iterations, they had 150 lots, but obviously that is dependent on the use of Deer Creek water and Oklahoma City sewer, which I can't recall if that one had sewer for sure. They may have been on aerobic with those. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but so this time what they're going to is water wells and aerobic septic type of system. So with those type of lots, typically you're working with larger lots when you have well water.
So this is private well and private septic?
That's what they're going to utilize in this case, yes. Now I know, just to kind of give additional background, I know when Cedar Ridge Farms was done, which was back in the 90s, they were in the same issue. Now, I'm sure these folks, the majority of them live in there, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but since that time, there may be Deer Creek water there now? Okay. So when it was done initially, it was all on well and septic, and it sounds like as time has moved on, they've moved to Deer Creek water. I know as time has gone on and the county's looked at other studies, one of the concerns that we hear a lot of time is water quality, water quantity. When you get past Portland, you kind of run into a water issue. There's a big clay shell that sits out on this area of Deer Creek, so there's not a whole lot of water penetration back into the Garber Wellington, which everybody draws from. So I'm sure a lot of people can tell you better than I can that I'm sure they've gone to water treatment systems over the years since they've been living out there. And so I'm sure going to Deer Creek water helped improve water quality, but possibly quantity of water as well.
Anybody have any other questions for Eric? Okay. Hearing none, is there anyone here who would like to talk in favor of this project? Please state your name and address, please.
Good afternoon, Caitlin Turner, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Here with me is also the civil engineer to discuss some of those water issues and other questions you may have. So yes, we are seeking a rezoning application from R2 to R1. To your comment, Commissioner Talbot, the main reason or big reason for this rezoning application is to accommodate for the natural amenity that currently exists on site. You'll see that pond running through there. We've carved out approximately 43 acres for the common area, so that's about a third of the site, which again is part of the reason why we are needing to seek this rezone. It's worth noting that there are also lots on site that will be around 2 acres, specifically to the south property line to kind of mitigate and buffer the neighbors to the north of Cedar Ridge Farms. You'll see that in the general plat application that follows. We also have implemented a 50-foot setback along the south to further accommodate those neighbors. You can see, as Eric pointed out, there is R1 to the south, so we would be maintaining that continuity in zoning, as well as the R1 zone property to the north there. So we believe this development to be compatible, especially considering the topography and the layout of the site that's existing. We, of course, are wanting to keep and maintain that natural area as an amenity and to preserve it to the best extent possible. You'll see in the staff report that Deer Creek Fire has stipulated that there is no issue serving this site. Cul-de-sacs will, of course, meet all IFC regulations. I would be happy to answer any questions that you all have regarding this rezoning application. Again, density that we're seeking is compatible with this area. This area is, of course, growing, and again, maintaining that continuity in that R1 zoning. So if you all have any questions for me or the civil engineer, we are happy to answer them.
In one of the protest letters, we saw mention of privacy fences. Is that accurate or?
So along the south, there will be privacy fences throughout the neighborhood. I know that the property owner has been in correspondence and communication. Privacy fences throughout the neighborhood. I know that the property owner has been in correspondence and communications with some of the neighbors about doing some kind of open fence along the south. Internally, though, we would be seeking to do the privacy screening. And since this is a straight rezoning application, we will be meeting or exceeding all county regulations and ordinances pertaining to screening.
Are there any lots smaller than an acre?
No, there are not.
Okay.
And the topography of the site, a lot of the drainage will drain to that existing pond there, so there shouldn't be any concern. It's also against the law for us to increase runoff to surrounding property owners, so that will be mitigated. And again, based on the topography of the site, that shouldn't be an issue, especially to the neighbors to the south. That will not be an issue. It won't be.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak in favor of this project? Would you like to hear from the civil engineer? Sir? Name and address, please.
For the record, Kendall Dillon with Craft and Toll. And like I say, I can answer any questions, but specifically to the drainage. Hopefully you can see that from there. Tried to make it big enough, but that is the, you can see the red lines represent the drainage areas. Obviously you can see our site with the lot configuration. There's the large pond. It's about 13 and a half, 14 acres of water. So it's a significant size pond. But you'll notice that everything on our site drains to the pond with a little bit of exception of our northwest corner that drains to an existing culvert here. So really we receive everybody else's water. And so we'll be accepting that water by statute, by your ordinance. We're not allowed to block any of that drainage. And then obviously in terms of meeting your drainage requirements, we'll be providing the detention and everything. So when it discharges at this location, it'll be at historic or pre-developed or less. So that's kind of the drainage in a nutshell. You can see there's about 165 acres that drains onto us at this point. And then a little bit, 22 acres that kind of drains in the back. But so you can kind of see the total discharges at those locations. But yeah, we've already done a reasonable amount of study just on a preliminary drainage report, confident that we can meet all of your requirements and don't foresee any issues at all, to answer your question.
Can you bring that a little closer?
Sure. I didn't make it big enough.
No, it looked,
So will those pads be built up right there? Cause you said right, well, where you've got 165 acres right there, you said
Well,
draining back into it. So are
Yeah,
those,
this water collects, actually drains around like this and this to this point and then comes off. But these lots here, they will be elevated up, but really it's kind of a concentrated discharge at this point. There's an existing pond in this neighborhood, so most of the drainage is coming out of that pond straight into this pond. Does that answer your question?
yeah, so there's not gonna be any like two-part elevation certificate or anything required for those lots, right? Minimum elevation, I guess.
But to answer your question, I mean, we still have a pond, so that we will, as part of that study with your preliminary plat and drainage design, we will set minimal finish floor elevation for everything that has anything drainage related. No, we are staying out of, the only FEMA designation, which is really hard to see, is in this area here. Eric's probably wanting to come back to the microphone.
No.
But this is the only FEMA designation. You can see that we're staying completely out of FEMA, as well as a buffer around it. But then this is not FEMA regulated, but it obviously still is drainage flow. So you'll notice that we can put it in a common area. We have a total of 43 acres in the common area, which encumbers all of, there's an oil pad up here, but it encumbers all of the drainage, as well as flow. So that's really like 28% of our site, which kind of leads back to the question of why R1, not R2, even though if you do the inverse density, it's 2.01 dwelling units, right?
I was just gonna try to answer Ms. Patterson's question. If they put minimum finished floor elevations on the lots around the pond, the only way for us to verify that is elevation certificates. So typically in the past, we've tried to get away from 2 just because it's not a designated floodplain. As an example, Bellagio, all those houses that are around there, we've done that with. So that's really the only way we can verify that if it's on the plat. Only way we can verify that it meets it.
Other questions for this gentleman? Thank you. Is there anybody else here who'd like to talk in favor of this project? Okay, now we're going to open it up to people who are, would like to talk against this project. I would ask that three things. First of all, you come up, you say your name and address. Second of all comments and concerns are addressed to the board, not to the applicants. And third, please refrain from repeating and telling us the same thing over and over again. We want to hear everybody's opinion, but let's keep it to the facts and straightforward. So with that said, anybody here would like to talk against this project? Okay. Name and address, please.
Lennis DeRue, 16400 Old Olive Way, Edmond,
Eric,
Oklahoma. Do I need to go down?
Yeah, she'll get, thank
Sorry.
you.
I wore my heels too. I am the Assistant Superintendent representing the Deer Creek School District, and I would like to read a statement on behalf of our district and my superintendent.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing us to speak today. In response to the request for the presented zoning changes in the Deer Creek community, which would reduce the building requirements to less than 2 acres per dwelling for the Orchard Hills residential subdivision, the Deer Creek School District continues to encourage following the county land usage master plan. The Deer Creek community infrastructure is struggling with the current zoning and homes being built within the area. 2-lane roads, limited water supply, limited sewer, drainage, spotty internet, and unstable electrical infrastructure all need to be addressed in order to deal with the current growth taking place. The Deer Creek School District is continually growing, working up to keep with our growth of annually 300 to 500 students. The district's limited ability to bond and build for the rapid growth continues to be a challenge. We are grateful for the Commission's willingness to look out for the best interest of our community by maintaining the integrity of the land usage master plan, and we would hope you would continue to stand that ground today. Our area is not facing any sort of housing shortage, which would necessitate a zoning change. The Deer Creek community has new developments being added to our already high growth on a continuous basis. Aside from the portions of our community governed by this commission, hundreds of housing units may obtain building permits at any time to construct homes on undeveloped, platted, single-family residential lots in the Oklahoma City portion of Deer Creek. This extreme amount of growth will further stress our infrastructure and schools. In summary, it is important to protect the community by maintaining the current zoning outlined in the county master plan. Without needed infrastructure improvements, additional dense development will be detrimental to the community and cause additional struggles for the school district.
Any questions?
Thank you for your time.
You state your name and address, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Glass. My address is 6143 Cedar Farm Road. I live in Cedar Farm Ridge. This is why you never send your letter to the superintendent of the school board, because y'all copied it. All right, good job. So one of the problems that we have, and one of the issues we have with this seems to be mitigated. I wanted to make sure I got this on the record, that we were going to get a 50-foot, can't call it easement, but I can't call it a 50-foot green belt either. I'm going to address this to you all, so I'm not going to look at the applicant like you told me not to do. However, I do want to get acknowledgement of that and proof on the record. Also, Cedar Farm Ridge and specifically all of the communities around us, all of the subdivisions are open spaces, no privacy fences, nothing like that. That is one of the big issues that our folks have, is the ability to maintain sightlines and not butt up against somebody else's fence. 8-foot privacy fences, 6-foot privacy fences are a nuisance. Most of us moved out to the country to see the country, and we want to make sure that we're able to see that. Otherwise, I don't have any problems with what the applicant has said up to date. It sounds like they've taken some of our concerns into the record. One of those is the 2-acre lots facing south that are facing the north side of Cedar Farmer. So as long as they acknowledge that, again, looking at you all, but we'll get that one on the record also. And reiterating, unfortunately, yes, the growth in that area is exponential. We've had lots of traffic, increased accidents, and we're trying not to burden the services up there. So thank you all very much for your time. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mhm. Okay, hearing and seeing none. Eric? Sir.
Tom Fisher, Sportsman's Lake Estates, 19675 Sportsman's Road. This area is R2. If we approve an R1, does that facilitate any R2s going to R1s in the future?
If you're asking, does it set a precedent so
Yes.
everybody could do that, then
Right.
no. Every time somebody wants to do a zoning change, they have to come in front of the
I
board.
understand that, but they can set that this applicant got an approval from an R2 to an R1. So why can't we do it?
And
That's the concern, because I'm living in an R2 right now, and everybody here really does enjoy it.
all I can tell you is in the history of me being on this board for 3 to 5 years, we've rejected, we've approved, we've rejected, we've approved. We take it by a case business. It's not a setup to guarantee it going forward. And that's the best answer we can give you.
Based on the plat that they have applied for the last couple of times, the developer paid a very, very high price for this 150 acres. Very high price. And in order to get his money back, he's got to go to 1-acre lots. And I don't think that's a good excuse to go to 1-acre lots in an R2. Everything around there is R2, north, east, and west. Going to an R1 with well water, I can tell you right now that if there's a fire out there, the house is gone, because the fire department cannot pump water out of the wells. They have to bring pumpers in there. I just lost one of our homes across the street from us, and we have fire hydrants. And if you think that people are going to move out there with well water and have to have Deer Creek Fire come out there with pumpers, because there's no fire hydrants out there for them to refill. Keep that in mind. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Hearing and seeing none. Eric, I've got some questions for you, if you wouldn't mind. The one gentleman brought up the question about the easement.
So on the easement itself, the 50-foot easement that they mentioned is something that's on the plat. So obviously, as we move forward, the platting process is a 3-stage process. Today, if we get past the zoning, is a general plat. It's just a general description of what, or idea of what the subdivision is going to look like. Next step is the preliminary plat, where we do all the engineering. They go out and build the roads. We do all of our inspections. That's where that comes into play, drainage, all of that. Last is the final plat. The final plat is where this easement will come into play. They'll have to denote the 50-foot easement there on their plat, so it's as of record once it's approved. It is delineated on the general plat that they submitted, so it is there, yes. We just have to make sure if that's what everybody wants to move forward with, we keep it in place as we move forward.
Second question, what is the zoning regulations for privacy fences?
We do not have any zoning regulation for privacy fences in regards to residential. Now, we don't issue, like Oklahoma City as an example, they issue a fence permit. We don't issue any fence permits. The only time when we require any screening or landscaping is when you're dealing with commercial or industrial zone piece of property and you're adjacent to a residential piece of property.
As of today, just to clarify, if I wanted to put a 20-foot privacy fence around my property, I could do so, and the county has no bearing on it.
We have no say.
Okay. Any other questions for Eric? With that said, I'll entertain a motion to approve / deny.
Ms. Turner wanted to have,
Okay, sure, if you'd like to come back up.
I was just going to respond to some of them. You actually clarified certain items, so I won't go into detail to repeat those, but yes, we would maintain that 50-foot setback. Again, that you'll see that in the general plat before you. And the next item, as was stipulated, they're allowed to do privacy fencing there now. There was open fencing offered along the southern border of the property line to kind of mitigate that comment and that concern, which we're happy to continue those conversations. And then regarding future zoning applications, as you had mentioned, obviously it's case by case, but we also think that this site is extremely unique compared to the surrounding area with that natural amenity running through pretty much the entire middle section there. And with the minimum lot size being 1 acre and then also having some 2-acre lots, this will still be a low intensity development. A 1-acre lot is not insignificant. And so we would just want to state that as well.
Any questions for the clarifications
No, but I do have a question. If we took,
for Eric or?
I think for maybe the civil engineer, I'm kind of looking at the plat and stuff, and it looks like maybe possibly 10 of the tracks, of the 75 tracks are close to 2 acres.
go ahead.
Sure.
So
And-
how many lots would you lose if you went to an R2, a 2 acre?
Yeah, if you're asking how many lots total would we lose if we just conform to the R2, I don't know that number exactly. It would be, I'm gonna guess 10-ish or maybe somewhere in that neighborhood, just as a guess. Obviously, what we've done is we've tried to conform with, and let me back up a second and say there is a lot of green, but I think everything in the county until such time as somebody makes a zoning request is defaulted into R2, so it's automatically going to show up as green, which answers the gentleman's question about it's case by case, but it's about when somebody makes an application to rezone it, everything's R2 until such time. As far as, back to our application for R1 versus the R2, I'm going to guess in that neighborhood of 10 lots, give or take, and we could play games with it to some degree, because like even the neighborhood to the south, you'll notice there's one adjoiner I noticed had like a 3.5 acre lot, but the majority of it's in the pond. So, it yields something a little less, and we've chosen because we just think it makes a better neighborhood, and to some other issues that we'd like for everybody to benefit from our massive pond. So that's the reason that we're asking for the R1, even though that density, which depending on how you want to look at it, is 0.5 dwelling units per acre, which is 2.01 acres per dwelling unit. So we kind of hit that standard, but that's the reason so that we can have a lot that's a minimum of 1 acre. But to answer your question, and I think we wanted to be sure and clarify that the one gentleman wanted to make sure about the 50-foot buffer or building setback on the south. I don't want to get into too much discussion on the general plat with this, but just to make sure that we address that now, yes, you will see that, as Caitlin mentioned, on the general plat. And then also you will see that the lots that adjoin our south are 2 acre minimum, just so that, we kind of made an agreement with them or tried to. We met with them. We've had a couple of different meetings to try to resolve any issues. We've resolved some, obviously, with some of the folks, and some of them we haven't. But again, if you look at our nature of R1, it's the same zoning that adjoins us to the south. But if you look at our average lot size and it's like 1.21 acres, the Cedar Ridge is 1.12. And if you look at densities, ours is 0.5, theirs is 0.75 or 0.74. So we're less dense overall. We've got still 43 acres of common area, which is 28% of the site. So I think if you look at all of that, we're still less dense as the neighborhood to the south. And so it makes and we've got some things going on with a large common area with trees, the pond. So it's really not that dense of a development. It, in essence, conforms to the R2 with some, but we just need the minimum 1 acre lot size. So hopefully that answers your question as far as the R2.
Any other questions? Okay, so at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve / deny item number 7.
I'm gonna make a motion to deny item number 7.
I'll second.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
No.
Mr. Davidson,
No.
Ms. Craig.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7 is denied. With that said, hold on. With that said, understand that this item will be going to the County Board of Commissioners in approximately 2 weeks, Eric?
I am going to shoot for February the 5th.
Okay, so for February 5th, and they will decide on the matter as well. So with that said, do we even need to go to item number 8?
No.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to skip it?
You want to defer the general plan? Okay, they want to defer the general plan.
So item number 8, I get a motion to defer item number 8.
I'll second.
But he would like to defer to the next meeting in February.
Right, and we have a motion and a second, so roll call?
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson, Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Ms. Craig.
Yes.
Okay, item number 9, discussion and possible action to approve / deny a zoning change from R2 Rural Residential District to CH Commercial Highway District, Z 2023-11. Eric?
This is a unique case. The property owners, the Tolls, have been out there for a little while now, from my understanding. They've been operating a tire shop, and according to our records, along with what they had stated to us, that before they brought this property, it was used as some other commercial use. And so since that time, they just kind of picked up that commercial use with the tire shop and moved forward. Someone had contacted our office stating that the tire shop was in operation. We went out there to verify that, and there is a tire shop there. As you can see, the property is zoned R2, so it's never gone through the process of rezoning that for commercial use. So what we're here today to do is to discuss rezoning this particular piece of property. Like I said, it's off of Hara and Southeast 44th. It's 1.15 acres in size. The reason they've chosen CH, Commercial Highway, is one, it allows for the continued operation of the tire shop. One of the things they also want to continue on the particular piece of property is firework retail sales. Firework retail sales is only allowed in R2, which is currently zoned, and CH only. So that was the reason, one of the reasons for the CH request. If you go to the next slide there, just kind of giving you an idea of the area there, directly east from this particular piece of property is the city of Hara. There's a subdivision that's being built there. I don't know what the actual zoning is. I couldn't locate it online, but my thought is those lots that are adjacent to Hara itself on the east side of the road, you can see that they're larger than the homes that are being built as far as lot size. My assumption is that those lots are probably going to be some commercial use in the future. Now, again, that's an assumption. I couldn't locate on anything online to lead me one direction or another, but you can see that everything out there is under construction now as far as a residential subdivision in their jurisdiction. As you go south, you have some rural commercial that's in our jurisdiction. Then you get back into Oklahoma City at the half-mile mark on the west side of Hara. And then you can see what's out there, R2, there's some subdivisions back to the west. So it does sit directly on the corner itself. We're just trying to maybe solve this problem, if you will, as far as what it's currently zoned and trying to help them move forward. So that's what this item is about. If you have any particular questions of me.
The tire shop is already there. Were they
Right.
doing annual fireworks already, or that would be something in addition?
No, they do that already. So, like I said, you can only do fireworks in R2 and CH. So I think they've only done fireworks sales for the last few years, if I recall correctly, on this particular piece of property. So they just want to be able to continue with the tire shop, but also continue with the retail fireworks sales.
So they want commercial and R2?
No.
Well, it sounds like.
Well, the CH allows them to conduct the activities they want to conduct. So that's the fireworks and the tire shop.
Any other questions for Eric? Is there anybody here who'd like to talk in favor of this project? If you'd state your name and address, please.
My name's Brian Knoll. Address is 14201 Iron Road, McLeod. This place, it used to be our place of residence. When I did buy it, the lady that ran it, I had ran a ceramic shop there for over 40 years. I've been contract welder. When I moved in, I started welding there. Built me a welding shop, used that. And then when I moved, I kind of started welding on my new house, and we was doing service work. I've had a lot of vehicles, a lot of equipment. My company was pretty big for a little bit. And we always did tires there, did our own, did my neighbors, stuff like that. And there's no tire shops anywhere around out there. We're the only tire shop, service center, anything out there. And we just kind of started doing it. It took off. We kept rolling with it. The fireworks stuff, we started that several years ago. We was leasing a lot to the north of us there. Had a little dispute with the neighbor. They wanted us to move it back to our place, so I did put it back in the backyard, and we've sold fireworks there for several years. We do it as a fundraiser. We donate a portion of our proceeds every year to a different nonprofit. So I mean, we do it for a purpose as well as to sell fireworks, make money, and all that stuff. The tire shop, like I said, we've been doing it. It's taken off really good. Didn't think that we was out of compliance with anything. We were just going, and then apparently someone started turning us in for everything, saying we're dumping oil out back, which it's not. It's being properly disposed of. All of our waste tires are properly disposed of. We have to pay our waste fees on everything, keep up with all our taxes, and just trying to be productive members of society and provide a service out there as well.
Any questions?
So there's a structure that was our old house. We just use it for storage. But it's originally a 30 by 40 shop, and we put a 15 by 30 office onto it for customer waiting area and sales office. It's on the northwest corner of 44th and Harrow Road. Yes, we've been operating it for a year now as Harrow 44 Tire. Yes.
Do you run the tire shop?
My wife actually does.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here who would like to talk against this project? Sure. Don't touch the screen.
All of the properties directly across the street have been developed, and all of that is being marketed as commercial. Everything is growing extremely out there. Several other properties to the north of us have been rezoned to commercial as well. And I think there's another one that has a sign out front for a hearing, but I think they're in city limits of Harrow as well. But it's all growing faster than we can keep up with out there. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now, does anybody want to speak against this project? Hearing and seeing none. Just out of curiosity, Eric, the taxes will change on this property?
I can't answer that question. That's a question for the assessor, but my thought is it's not based on the zoning, it's based on the actual use of the property itself. So my guess, he's probably already being charged as a commercial entity as far as property taxes because it's been there
So
for,
that
for
money's
some
going to
time.
the school district already.
Right, so this is just more to get in line with
Sure.
our regulations.
Okay, with that said, I'll entertain a motion to approve / deny item number 9.
I'll second.
Roll call? Nope,
Oh, I'm
wait for
sorry.
Eric.
Mr. Murray? Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes,
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Ms. Gregg?
Yes.
motion approved. Item number 10, discussion possible action to approve / deny a zoning change from R2 rural residential to planned unit development PUD 2023-09, 6800 North Sooner Road. Eric?
This particular piece of property, as you can see, is actually made up, or this request is made up of 4 pieces of property in various sizes. So the total request to be rezoned is 11.17 acres. As you can see, it's located there on the corner of Waterloo and Sooner Road. As you go back east, you get towards I-35. We have a lot of industrial, a lot of commercial activity going back that direction. Logan County, they have a lot of commercial activity. As you well know, they don't have a zoning or a planning commission like we do, so it's pretty much a free-for-all on that side of the street. But you can see there's some activity. I think there's a Taco Bell, a Wendy's, and a car wash that's out there now. So there's quite a bit of activity. You may remember here recently there was a truck stop that was being proposed that was adjacent to this property. So we're getting more applications as this area expands. What they're asking for is a PUD. You have sent the PUD out to everybody to review. Obviously, there's quite a few uses that they're asking for in the PUD be included. Your typical uses, adult entertainment, medical marijuana dispensaries have been left out. So some of your egregious uses that people typically don't like to see have been left out, but at the same time, you can see with the number of uses, it's pretty wide open as far as what can be done there on this particular corner. That's all I have, unless there's anything particular you have questions about as far as the PUD or the area in itself. If you go back one, or go one slide forward, I'm sorry. No, okay, no, that's fine. So really all the commercial activities in this area itself, as you get back west, you get some additional commercial when you get around Coltrane, which is another mile back to the west. But anyways, if you have any questions.
Any questions for Eric? Anyone here like to talk in favor of this project? Name and address, please.
Good afternoon, Caitlin Turner, 522 Colcord Drive. For the last time today, I promise. So this application is to first rezone the subject property to a PUD to allow for some retail along the hard corner and the frontage along those arterials, and then some flex space when you get kind of further west onto some of those tracks. Of course, it's common to see commercial on the hard corner, especially when you're across from a developing larger scale commercial development. And then when you're in this close proximity to major highway, you can see the zoning that we're seeking, and some of the use units that we're requesting have been restricted and are more restrictive than a lot of that zoning that you see not far east of the subject site. Of course, there are setbacks that the ordinance requires, increased setbacks when adjacent to residential properties, which we'll be complying with. So we believe this to be compatible with the area, compatible with what is coming and how this area is growing, and not uncommon again based upon the location and the location on the hard corner with that frontage. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you all have. and we would request that you recommend approval.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here who wishes to talk against this project?
I do just want to mention, as far as the PUD itself, the base category is going to be CG, but like she stated, there are some lighter industrial uses. Everything else, as far as screening, landscaping, lighting, parking, setbacks, everything is going to be regulated by the commercial general category. They didn't ask for any variances from that. So I just want to be sure that everybody's on the same page. One other thing that wasn't captured in the staff report necessarily, I just want to make reference to, is we require fee in lieu of or a construction. So when they go to construct on this site, any particular use along the frontage of Sooner Road and Waterloo Road, there is a fee in lieu of that they can pay. That's what's required when you zone something commercial, or they can pave the road itself along the frontage of these two roads as they move forward with the development. So I just want to be sure that that's on the record as well.
Eric, what is the commercial setback on those section line roads?
So the commercial setback, it would change with the regulation, with this current regulation that we moved to. It's 150 feet is going to be the setback from the section line road, Sooner Road and Waterloo Road. It used to be 100 feet. I know that's kind of caused some issues in some other areas, but that's how it stands at this point in time.
Any other questions for Eric?
Right, water and sewer, there is none out there. All of that is, now I take that back. There is Logan County, but I don't, according to the PUD, they're just sticking with water wells at this point. But there is Logan County water out in that area. There is a Dollar General that's further west of here that utilizes that. So they do dip down into our jurisdiction. There is no sewer, so they're going to be either septic systems, aerobic type of systems.
So there's no structures on here now.
There is some structures that are on the property. Like I said, this is kind of a conglomeration of 4 separate lots that this particular owner is bought or in the process of buying. And so it's a little difficult to see from here, but the tract that's furthest to the south, there is a fairly large building that's there. It's, if I recall correctly, it's in the neighborhood of 5,000 square feet. I think the previous owner, we went back through our records, they were going to utilize that building as a medical marijuana grow facility. I assume that no longer is going to be the case because they really didn't finish the building when they built it to begin with. So I don't think that ever took off, but that is a building that's there on that. There may be a home on the hard corner itself that's there. I don't know if that's a home or okay. Yeah, so there may be another structure that's there that's not occupied at this time. So there are a couple of buildings that are on these lots now.
Is there anything in the PUD that would mandate water storage?
No. And that's something that, as far as just the unincorporated part of the county is as a whole, we've never implemented. Now we get into that when we start doing fire code review, depending on the type of use or uses that are being done on the property inside of a particular building. That's something that we look at in regards to the fire code. And so I know it's come close to a couple of projects where they may have to have on-site water storage just to meet fire code. But as that process moved forward and the use they ultimately decided to do, we got away from that. But that is something that we look at for fire code, but it's nothing that's in our regulation itself.
Right.
So back to, you said that there's a 5,000 square foot building that was a medical marijuana grow house or grow facility, right? But we're excluding a dispensary. So if they choose to put a grow house on that tract, is that excluded or is it?
Let me look here. I think that's been indoor agriculture. So indoor agriculture is medical marijuana. So yes, I mean, it's, as it sits today as R2, you could do a medical marijuana grow. The only thing that's different, and I don't think that's our intent, I got a call from the property owner here within the last couple of days. It sounds like they want to utilize that building as office space. So I don't foresee that. But as far as the PUD is concerned, yes, indoor agriculture can lead to medical marijuana as far as grow. But
They
they
can
left,
grow it, they just can't dispense.
right, there's dispensaries have been excluded.
Other questions? Okay. Well, let's get back to, is there anybody here who'd like to talk against this project? Okay. Okay, so hearing and seeing none, would you like to come back and address a few issues?
First off, the structures that are there now have been existing for quite some time. That's how they were from the previous property owner. The applicant now has since acquired the lots and will be handling and renovating those, pending, of course, the zoning getting approved. In terms of the indoor agriculture, the intent there was to eliminate marijuana uses altogether, which is why those other uses were left out. If it makes you all comfortable, we can strike that because again, this intent is for retail and flex space. So we will not be going down that path. And then we'll of course have to meet all county regulations. There's a list on the first page of your staff report regarding all the things that we still need to submit and comply with in order to develop the site accordingly, which we intend to do. So any other questions, so I'm happy to answer.
So do I have a motion to approve / deny item number 11? And would we like to add the inclusion of excluding medical marijuana grow?
I think it's item number 10.
10, I'm sorry. It started on one page and went to,
I would make a motion. I'd make a motion to approve with the exclusion
grow facility.
of no grow facilities.
I would second that.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray? Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Ms. Gregg?
Yes.
Okay, item number 10 is approved with the adjustment of excluding grow facilities. Item number 11, discussion and possible action to approve / deny a zoning change from R2 Rural Residential District to Planned Unit Development PUD 2023-08 East Britton Road. Eric?
Yes, so this particular piece of property was in front of the Planning Commission towards the end of last year, September timeframe. The Kickapoo tribe wanted to develop this particular piece of property for various commercial uses, flex space. At that particular time, there was quite a few protests and concern by adjacent property owners. So they withdrew the application and now have come back with the PUD to limit the activities that are done on that particular piece of property. Besides that, not much, nothing's changed. This area, there's no water, there's no sewer. You can see how all this area is pretty much R2 zoning at this point in time. Obviously, the Kickapoo Turnpike itself has been added, so that's going to change the landscape out there as we move forward to some degree or another. The PUD itself is pretty straightforward. They've eliminated a lot of uses, adult entertainment, medical cannabis dispensaries, drinking establishments, detention and correctional facilities, institutional facilities, contractors' yards or storage yards, funeral services, cremation, interning, above ground flammable liquid storage, concrete asphalt batching plants, hazardous waste disposal, heavy industrial scrap operations, and stockyards. So they've eliminated those. A lot of those, I will say, were special use permits that would have to be acquired. But obviously, if this property is sold to somebody in the future, that should give the folks out there some comfort that some of these more intensive uses will not be there. Obviously, the uses that they want to include are pretty wide open. Your typical convenience type store, eating establishments, gas stations. There's various other commercial uses that they've included in the PUD statement itself. The lighting, signage, screening, landscaping, parking, and loading, everything is going to be regulated by the Commercial General Zoning District. They haven't asked for any variations from that. So again, that gets back into your setbacks. All that is going to be regulated by our regulation itself. There's no variation there. Again, I mentioned in the previous application is the additional requirements as far as the fee in lieu of for the frontages is along Britton Road. Whenever the time comes, we usually address that issue when it comes to actually building on the property. Once there's a building permit application that has been obtained, with that first application is when we address the fee in lieu of, or if they so desire, they can do the additional construction on the road there, in Britton Road in this case. That's all I had, unless you had any particular questions. And I will say on this particular item, there was one letter of protest, which I got to you guys. There was a second letter that was sent to us. I wouldn't say it was a letter of protest. It was more of a letter of concern as far as water runoff and how water runoff is going to be addressed in this particular site. And then we also got a letter of support from an adjacent property owner. So I would like to hand out those letters, just giving you an opportunity to look at those.
I have a motion to receive the letters.
Motion to receive the letters?
Roll call.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Ms. Gray.
Yes.
While they're reviewing that letter, is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this project? Name and address, please.
Thank you. I'm Todd McInnes. My address is 1503 East 19th Street in Edmond. And I was here on September 21st when we presented this application. It was a straight zoning application. And confessed at that time, we underestimated the difficulty with it in our cooperation with the staff. And so we made the decision to withdraw that application and come back with the PUD. I think my notes from that day had 11 people spoke at the podium in opposition to it, which has a different flavor than today. So what we did is what Eric has already said, came in and reduced a lot of the offensive uses and really more so tried to give an idea of what we plan to do. You know, in 2007, when the master plan was adopted, the Kickapoo Turnpike wasn't even an idea. And so it's been in place since 2021. This is a section line road on a hard corner, as you saw by the letter of support from Mr. Dorman, who has the 80 acres to the south, as well as the land adjacent to the west. This would, in our mind, be the first convenience fuel station on the 18-mile Kickapoo Turnpike. So one of our intended uses is purely commercial, with the idea as you go further off the corner to the north, a mix of light industrial office is what the plan is for the Kickapoo tribe. Admittedly, we're in front of it because the infrastructure is not there. But I mean, we have to take a step forward to justify each step in the process. So our desire when we came in September was the same as it is today. Our actions today are to provide more definite information to the people who might be concerned I know a gentleman's here today who has a property immediately to our southeast corner, and we'd like to give as much information as we can. We know our intention is commerce. We know our intention is to drive retail to our property to increase its value, to develop it over time. That's our plan. It's not a secret. The people that spoke in opposition the last time mentioned several things that mostly had to do, I think there was a previous application years ago for a saloon. It's the first time I'd heard the word saloon in a long time. And so we tried to exclude that in our uses and other types of offensive uses. Issue came up, I'm sure it's come up, is this going to be a casino? That's not an issue that I've been communicated with by the tribe. If they were, I wouldn't be the one to do it. It's not a county issue. That's a federal/state sovereign nation issue. But I can just speak the truth that I know, and I've been given no indication that's the plan. The idea is for, as I said, a large convenience operation with fuel, with office and mixed use industrial office as you go back to the north. That's what I've been told, and that's what I faithfully communicated to you, and we'll report back to the tribe after our hearing today. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I know it's a growing area, obviously, and the Turnpike is driven not just this application, but the ones that'll come after us, I'm sure, at the different exits.
I got a question. When the Indians buy fuel wholesale, do they pay road tax?
I think individual consumers pay the tax at the pump, regardless. So if I go to a site that is owned by a native tribe, then I'm most likely going to pay the tax because it goes towards the roads that I'm driving on.
I'm talking about wholesale when they get
I don't know the answer
18
to
loader,
that.
an 18-wheeler full of fuel.
I don't know if they pay tax at that level or not. I don't know how wholesale tax is generated by the user because you have so much tax paid by the consumer at the end.
I think it's passed down.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Any other?
You mentioned that you knew of no intention for a casino. It's my understanding the tribe has bought several tracts to the north and to the west. So you don't know of any pending fee to trust applications that would put this into federal land?
My understanding is there's no application like that pending or, to my knowledge, contemplated. But I do know that they have their headquarters out in that area, and they see that as a future growth area. So.
Other questions? Thank you, sir. Anybody else here to talk in favor of this project? Anyone here? Okay, well, here's the thing. Yeah, well, we're going to open it up to people who aren't in favor of it. So either way, you're covered. If you come up and give your name, you're fine. We won't hold you to it. So if you want to come up and give your name and address and let us know what you think. And for the record, we've already established we don't know about taxes. We don't know about casinos. So other than that, we'll try and help you.
All right, Gary Jewell, 9601 North Dobbs, about a mile and a half east of that location. And again, as he spoke, he's here to give us more information. Well, I don't think I've gotten more information. There was at one time, whenever this was presented back in September, there was something floating around that they kind of showed a layout of possibly what they might do there. It looked like it might have been a convenience store, might have been some doctor's offices and stuff, but that still, then it wasn't presented here. Now it's not presented here. So we still don't know. They're talking about exclusions of what they're taking out, but on the exclusions, there's 6 items. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Barry. Above ground flammable liquid storage, concrete asphalt batch plant permanent, hazard waste disposal, industrial heavy, scrap operations, and stockyard is not even allowable in this type of zoning, in the commercial general, right?
That is correct. That would take a special use permit, but,
It's not even allowed.
okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, but according to this here off y'all's website, that those items are not even allowed and they're not special use
Okay,
or permitted or.
Now there is, there's always an opportunity for someone to do a special use permit. Now, I understand it's not stated there, true.
Okay.
So they can always come forward with one, but I think with the PUD, what they're saying is they're eliminating that potential altogether.
Well, so there's a lot more items on here that's not allowed, that if they're excluding, now, why don't they exclude all of those items also? I mean, it's understood if it's special use listed on y'all's document, or if it's permitted, they're gonna exclude those. But there's a lot more items on there that's not allowed. Why don't we list them all then? Or why don't we list exactly what we're going for? I'm the one that suggested at the last meeting, why don't they do this as a PUD instead of a general zoning? And so I would just like to see them actually state what they're putting there. I'm not like, I won't have a problem with a gas station or convenience store. I don't want a liquor store there. And I think liquor store is one of the things that's listed as a possible special use or something like that. I got enough beer cans thrown out on my place anyway. I don't need the liquor bottles going out. I'm right on Britton Road and Dobbs. I'm in the corner. So as you said, I would just like to know what they are actually planning. It's a big organization. I know they've got a plan. Is there any way you can have them state what they are gonna do here, other than just leaving it so generalized? So. thank you.
Appreciate it. Hold on. Any questions for the gentleman? Okay, now thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else here who'd like to talk against this project? You state your name and address, please?
I'm James McLean, address 18601 East Britton Road. I'm actually the property straight to the east. Their fence line will be my west fence line. I raise, horses and cattle here, rope and pen, all that kind of stuff. My big question is, there is a road in the middle of their said property that curves back to the properties behind us. From what I'm understanding, that road is going to be moved to the east, right on my fence line. And if that's going to be done, is there going to, what am I going to benefit here? I mean, are we going to put up a big privacy fence? I mean, because all I can see is the gas station up front and people coming in this road all times of the night. People throwing trash out and into my horse pens and things like that. That's our big thing. The other thing is the noise, which, we got a turnpike here now, so we can't do anything about that. But I think that was my biggest question is, with that road moving over right on my fence line, and now it's gonna be kind of on two sides of me, to my west and to my north. So that's kind of a big thing for my wife and I, but other than that, I mean, you can't stop progress. We know it's coming. We know sooner or later, whether this gets approved now or later, sooner or later it's gonna happen. So, but I think that was kind of the big question, and I'm in agreement with this gentleman. We don't really know exactly what's going in, so how can we really say, yeah, we're for it or against it? That's all that I.
Any questions?
Yeah. Are you right on Britton Road?
Yes, sir.
So is this a private road you're talking about?
Yes, sir. I can show you. It's,
Oh, I see it.
yeah, I don't think it's, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's private. But there are homes back there. There's several houses back there that road goes to. And it goes right through the middle of the property that they bought. Actually, their property is on both sides of the road. The road splits several of the properties.
Yeah. Are there tank batteries or pump jacks back there?
There was one place there that was a oil company, and I know there is a oil line that goes across my property and over and across their said property. But I don't know as far as what people have on the properties back there. I'm just not sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Hearing none. Eric, can you address the whole road situation we just heard about?
Yes, that is a private road. Essentially, there's an access easement that property owners use to get back there. It's nothing that's county maintained. To try to help answer some other questions that was brought up by the gentleman. So the property itself, or at least the way the PUD statement itself is written, is the underlining zoning is gonna be CG, which is commercial general. And yes, there's a lot of activities that you can do commercial general. Obviously, they've excluded a lot of those as well. But as far as the setbacks, lighting, signage, screening, and landscaping, as far as the setbacks from Britton Road itself, it's gonna be 150 feet from the middle of Britton Road. And then they're gonna have side yard setbacks away from the property itself. Now, typically, when you're abutting all these residential properties, it's 25 feet that they're set back from the property itself. Now, they also have to provide screening and landscaping along this east side of this because everything east of it is zoned R2 rural residential. So there is requirements as far as landscaping and site-proof screening as they move forward and develop this. Parking, everything is going to be determined on the site layout, but also the uses that are going to be on the property itself. Lighting is going to be, basically the county regulation is set up. Lighting across the board is going to have to be domed to where the lighting is pointed downwards instead of scattered throughout the sky. So those are the main things that we deal with. Signage is always a concern. You can have attached signage to the building itself. They can have one sign that is out there towards the front of the property itself. They can do monument type of signs. They can do one pylon. So there is some leeway as far as the signage goes. There is or billboard signage is not allowed. And that's something that they've excluded from the PUD itself. So I was just hope that answers some questions that they had.
So to confirm, that road that's going through the middle of the property is a private road, but it is gonna have to be moved when they develop.
Well, that's up to them. It doesn't have to be moved. That road can stay there. I haven't heard anything as far as that road itself being moved east, west, or anywhere else. We don't get into that until they actually develop the site itself. Now, obviously, you have the turnpike there. I mean, the turnpike owns the right of way along there. I know at one point in time, the county even has gone as far as discussing service roads along the turnpike. Now, if that ever comes to be, I have no idea, but the county has agreed to put in service roads along the turnpike at some point in time. So, to me, as far as the room that you have, I could see why you would want to provide some separation if the county ever does build a service road through there, that you would want to provide some separation between that service road and the entrance into this. But again, it could be another lifetime before the county decides to build service roads. So it may be something where wherever they place their entrance, we may have to buy additional right of way depending on how everything kind of shakes out at the end of the day. So I haven't heard any of that, but it makes sense why you would want to move that road back to the east, sure, but.
So if, hypothetically, they move the road all the way to the eastern side of the property, we require a 25-foot setback.
As far as building.
Okay, building, so it's a 25 feet from the road or from the property line?
So the 25 foot as far as buildings is from the property line.
Mhm.
Now this is an internal road for them, we're not setting anything off in internal road, or in this case, it's more of a driveway. It's an entrance. It's not a road.
Okay.
Is someone gonna be landlocked? You don't know.
Well, they bought all this property, just basically looking at it. There's the two property owners to the north and east. So they're gonna have to set up some sort of access easement. I mean, you can't landlock a particular piece of property. So they're gonna have to have access some way or the other. That's something that they're gonna have to determine as they move forward with the development of the site.
Who come up with these exclusions?
Well,
The applicant?
in the PUD, yes, they can come up with the exclusions. The PUD, the document itself, is what will become the zoning of the property. So they've included and excluded what they see fit or what they want to do there on the property. I mean, I can go over if there's a list of what's included, I'd be more than happy to go over that.
That's not necessary for me.
Sure. I mean, as far as what they have in this PUD document, this is what they can bid. So I'll just try to summarize this. A lot of this is fast food, convenience stores. They have home improvement, a large store. So that would be in the neighborhood of like a Home Depot, a Lowe's. They have laundry services. They have lodging accommodations. They have medical services as far as offices. They have retail services as far as local retail. They have automotive. They have indoor agriculture. Again, I think everybody kind of focuses on medical marijuana, but that can be various things. They have event centers, community recreation. They have library, community centers. They have administrative offices, agricultural supplies and services, animal sales and services, commercial amusement, a movie theater possibly is what they have included in there, eating establishments, grocery as far as a market. They have liquor package store that is included right now. They have, again, medical services, repair services, retail as far as general retail, automotive as far as minor repairs, automotive sales and rentals, automotive sales as far as farm and heavy equipment. So this is just kind of a brief, I didn't include everything, but this is kind of a brief idea of what they have included in the PUD document. I mean,
He wants to talk again.
Are you going to add or just are you adding a comment? Well, then come on up. Okay. Name and address again, please.
Gary Jewell, 9601 North Dobbs. So with Oklahoma City, you go apply for a PUD, you have to provide some type of a site plan showing your proposal, what you want to do. I would think the county would require some, because it would answer some of my questions. I mean, and usually with those, they're not required 100% of what you're doing, but what you're proposing to do. It's kind of like the gentleman's question, are they going to plan on moving this driveway, this easement, roadway to those back properties landlocked? If they're gonna build out that property, it makes sense. They're gonna move that driveway to the east side of the property or the west side of the property to get access to that property back there. But they ought to provide some type of document of a site plan to know what they're proposing to do. It would just make everybody get a nice, warm and fuzzy feeling of what's happening. Now, they might not be 100% true what they're gonna do, but at least it gives us an idea. So.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Thank you. So any other questions for Eric? No, we're going to go with Eric first. Okay. Sir, would you like a couple minutes to address some of this?
I would. Thank you very much. Two things. Mr. Drill, who spoke fifth at the last time, asked about the casino. That's the only thing that brought up then. He did mention the PUD, and that's what we tried to accommodate, is by bringing something. The idea about a layout that floated around last time, that came as an idea from the engineer. I don't know how it got in the public domain, but people had that last time. That's not relevant to our application. I've never even heard about our plans to move the road because we don't even know that the road, if it is going to move, it's going to move to the east or the west, or it's just going to go right through a development. So I appreciate Mr. McLean about that. That's just not information that anybody's even contemplated. Our engineer is Johnson and Associates. They're waiting to look at layouts based on potential users, which are waiting for there to be the ability to do the property. So the uses that we have in our PUD, if you look at the Kilpatrick Turnpike and you go from I-35 all the way around to I-40, all of the uses that Eric just mentioned, with the exception of the offensive uses, adult entertainment, are at virtually any intersection, whether it's Pennsylvania or May or Rockwell or all the way around to Northwest Expressway. So I understand we could do a Tractor Supply or we could do a Home Depot. All of those are potential uses as any landowner would want for a future 15, 20, 30-year development that's going to be at an intersection that 3 years ago had no access and now in 2021 has access in the form of a turnpike. So I appreciate Mr. Drewell's idea that we should come up with an exact plan, even if we don't know what it is. I think that's disingenuous. I could put up a pretty picture and put all kinds of wonderful proper nouns on it and have no idea if that's going to be there. So why would I represent that if I don't know? I can come up here and speak truthfully with integrity and say, hey, we believe this is going to be a commercial corner, because it is. That's why you guys have a section line out there, and that's why the Turnpike Authority put an exit ramp there at Britton Road. And the property values are going to go through the roof at some point, and the accompanying ad valorem taxes. That's what happens when our planning commissions, whether it's Edmond or Oklahoma City or Oklahoma County, makes a plan and then sees it modified by infrastructure development. So I would love to come up here with a site plan at this stage and say there'll be a 27,000 square foot Walmart neighborhood market, and there's going to be a 100,000 square foot Home Depot, and we have a Tractor Supply and a Love's. And I'd be lying to you. But I'd love to say it. But there's no way anybody can take those steps until they know what it's entitled to be done. And based on the fact that our master plan was put in place 17 years ago, it does not accommodate the uses that are possible for commercial interchange on the Kilpatrick or the Kickapoo or any other turnpike that is causing commerce to happen. So I mean that with all sincerity to Mr. McLean and Mr. Jewell, but that's just not the way development happens when you have such a massive change like an infrastructure turnpike. And so we're trying to share the information we had. We're here in September. People wanted to know what we could and couldn't do. The idea about bottles, we can sell bottles at Love's. So liquor stores aren't the only places that sell bottles. If someone's going to throw one in your yard, and they sell wine at Love's and On Q and all those other places today. So I want to be sensitive, but I also want to be reasonable. And I would do my best to answer any question as honestly as I can with the information we have in front of us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Wait, I got a question. Would you guys like to add gaming to the exclusions?
We could add gaming to the exclusions, but if the federal government says that a sovereign nation can come in and do a casino, my PUD doesn't do anything to that. And someone a whole lot smarter than me would be involved in it.
But from our perspective, like I said, from our perspective as a county, we don't have anything to do with gaming or any control over that. So let's move on to.
Well, I will say one thing, because I learned this, I got out of law school 30 years ago. And I learned in my Indian law class, there's not a single piece of fee trust property in Oklahoma County. So that's a weird deal from the assigned tribes. Well, when it was assigned. So you'd have to apply to be in that. So you said that, Ms. Craig, you'd have to apply to do that. And there are no applications out there for that, for the Kickapoo tribe. So.
Okay, so but we don't need to digress. Let's get back to the subject. Okay, with all that said, anybody have any other questions for Eric? With none, then I will entertain a motion to approve / deny item number 11.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 11.
I'll
The
second it.
exclusions.
I will second it. Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray? Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Okay, my motion carries. And again, this item will come up in about 2 weeks at the County Board of Commissioner meeting, approximately February 4th. Thank you for your time. You're welcome. Okay, item number 12, discussion and possible action to receive the December 2023 fee fund and expense report. Eric, are we rich?
No, far from it.
Okay.
We're in the hole $5,600 at this point. So, I mean, as far as, money that we've taken in the last couple of months, which is typical for us in the wintertime, stuff kind of slows down. So we'll just have to see if stuff picks back up in March. But at this time, no.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to receive the fee fund report.
Motion to receive the fee fund report.
Roll call.
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson, Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Ms. Craig.
All right, item number 13, new business. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, section 311-.9, new business is defined as any matter not known about or which could not have been reasonably foreseen but prior to the posting of this agenda. Do we have any new business?
No, sir.
Okay. Item number 14, now entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Roll call?
Mr. Murray, Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Ms. Craig.
So adjourned.